Hello and good evening, and welcome to the Smart Investing Show with Alton Brooks. You know, we've seen where a lot of businesses are now thriving online. And we're going to talk to a young entrepreneur this evening by the name of Elizabeth Aloidi from Queen's Magazine. So let's go. We'll be right back. Thank you for joining us this evening. This is the Smart Investing Show with Alton Brooks on the GBKM network. Tonight we're talking businesses going online and what that means for other businesses that are not online. Is that the future? Is that here to stay, that it's going to be like that? We're going to have our host in studio this evening. I should say our guest in studio, along with your host, myself. Her name is Elizabeth Aloidi. She's with Queen's Magazine. She's a founder and editor-in-chief, I understand, of this wonderful magazine. Welcome to our show tonight. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing very well, Alton. How are you?
I am doing just fine. Thank you
Good.
very much. It's been one of those days. It's been a little long, but you know what? I'm here with you, and I'm just very energetic.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about this magazine, Queen's Magazine.
Yes, so Queen's Magazine is a digital magazine, which basically just means it's an online magazine that predominantly features and caters to dark-skinned women of color. And I think that sums it up. It's Toronto-based, but it's a global magazine, so it's for the world. Not necessarily just to represent one culture, to represent all cultures, but mostly highlighting dark-skinned women of color.
Terrific. Well, that is great that you've got that going on. So the pandemic has created this work from home scenario, everything online all the time. What are your thoughts on that? And do you think how it's going to be even after the COVID-19 scare is over?
I mean, working from home isn't something that came about just because of the pandemic. I mean, I've been working from home ever since I started the magazine 4 years ago. And I think now we've realized just how equitable it could be for a lot of people, accessibility wise, and just, not everyone can commute to work and it actually be a not stressful commute. There are other things as well that makes it easier working from home than it would when you're in an office environment. Of course, there are other issues, the social aspects of an office environment where you can just turn over to a colleague and discuss something, brainstorm. Right. It's easier that way when you're in person. But I think now we're seeing that maybe it's easier for a lot more businesses to opt for the work from home option as well. Just because, life is busy. It's hard. And we're starting to understand that balance is necessary.
For sure. But what I'm hearing a lot, though, is that everyone is conferenced out. You're 9 to 5, you're from one video conference on Zoom to another on Teams to Google Meet. And by the time you're done, your eyes are just rolling all over the place. How do you cope with that? How do you deal with that as a permanent type of scenario running an online business?
Well, since I'm running it myself, I can choose when I can have my meetings. So I really try to space it out as much as possible. Just because Zoom fatigue is very real, and it does get kind of tedious and tiring constantly having to sit in front of a screen and engage and look engaged and be engaged in topic of conversation that you feel could have been an email. So I'm of the school of thought that if I can get this said out in one paragraph or less, I'm sending an email instead of booking a meeting. Right. Just because then I feel like it saves time for everyone else, and then it also gives you time to think about it so that we're not, spending that time going back and forth. You give me an answer and we go off that and we can get to work.
Do you find that you're working later on and still doing these meetings, or are you able to keep a 9 to 5 or an 8-hour schedule? How are the hours?
I don't think a 9 to 5 is real. I don't think they exist anymore. Who really works 9 to 5 p.m. anymore?
Well, isn't that the ideal? Isn't that what we're looking for right now?
My ideal
that balance
is actually working from 9 to noon, and then that's it.
Noon?
That's
okay.
That's the goal. And then the rest of the day I'm working on something else that isn't work.
Right.
But it could be. You never know. But yeah, I think, 9 to 5 doesn't necessarily exist anymore
So you do
within
find
those
yourself
confines.
having to
Yeah.
work in the evenings
Yeah.
to do other
Of course. I mean,
other
it's my
things.
business, it's my baby at the end of the day.
Right.
And that's why it's easier for me to, go the extra hours. Like if a boss was calling me up at 9 p.m., like, hey, do this for me before tomorrow morning, I might be
Yeah.
like, bye. But because it's mine and it's like, who else is going to do it except me? It's easier for me to like, okay, it's 6 o'clock in the morning. I got to get some stuff done. That's fine. It may not be the start of the workday, but I can send emails. I can
Right.
check up on, our online engagement. I can do all of that before the day, quote unquote, starts. And it works better with like my own flexible schedule as well.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, let's dive a little bit deeper into the online magazine. We talk about print magazines, for
Yeah.
instance, which seems to be a dying breed right now. What made you decide to, just go the online digital route for your business? And was there considerations of making it a print business initially? Or tell us about that thought process.
There were no considerations for making a print
Okay,
business.
okay.
I felt that I wanted it to be accessible. I wanted everyone across the globe to be able to have access to it. And I find that, with print, like if the only way you can get it is in stores, then that's not as accessible in my opinion.
Right.
And also, I just feel like this is the way the world was going. I mean, 4 years ago, a digital online magazine may not have been, the norm. It may not have been discussed as much, but now we're seeing a lot more of these publications going that route. Like we're seeing Essence magazine as well, doing their online covers, their online features and stuff. Vogue loves to do put their features on the website that's available in the magazine, and then they won't put the full thing out there, but it's like a snippet so that
Right.
you're still getting that online presence, but people are still going to have to go to the print for the full story. And I didn't like that because I was like, I just want people to have access to this out
I
there
see.
because at the end of the day, I want to inspire folks. I don't want them to feel that they have to be part of some sort of exclusive club or whatever to feel inspired.
Right.
So I feel like with the digital aspect of it, it allows for more inclusive.
Were there any challenges with any digital tools or just the technology behind digital, not necessarily even for your business, but just in general in order to be successful? And how did you navigate learning about that or being successful?
YouTube. YouTube is a gem.
YouTube videos?
Yes, YouTube
Okay.
videos, tutorials, all of that. At Google, I Google everything, from layouts, like how to do layout things on for the magazine, to editing videos, all of that. I had to, though, with my degree, because I studied journalism at U of T, I had some skills that I acquired during the 4-year program, but a lot of those, they're practical, so you have to put them to practice to,
Right.
hone them and really work with them. And there were certain things that I was taught in school that helped me, yes, but there are certain things that I wasn't taught in school that I had to figure it out on my own. And I think that's the same for anything.
Right.
But if you are looking to go into the more digital spaces, Google really does help you. It really does. And there's so many apps and tools out there as well that make it so much easier to get so many things done. I mean, now you don't have to be a graphic designer to do your own graphic design. We have Canva available for people to do it, and it's free, and it's quite easy to use. So there's so many different tools out there now being created to make it easier to fit into this new digital age, I would say.
Now, you got folks like myself who wear glasses, and lots of other people do. And even if you don't, people may want to start a business digitally, but they may have a problem staring at a screen all day.
Yeah.
Or they may have other issues in regard to just being locked inside. What do you say to those people? Because they still need to get digital, because that
Yeah.
is the future. It's on the information highway that it only leads to everything digital. So any solutions for those who may have an issue with just having to stare at a screen all the time?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that if it starts making you uncomfortable, you should keep doing it at the end of the day. Take it in time. You can do a couple hours a day just to get it started, see how you feel with that. I don't think that to be in the digital space and to start a business online, you have to be at it 24/7. You don't have to
Right.
be on social media 24/7. You don't have to be looking at a screen 24/7. There are different ways you can be working on your business without actively looking at a screen to work on it.
Right.
So, figuring that out. I still write by hand. Like I'll still jot down notes when I'm writing by hand because it's easier for me to look at that and then start typing
Right.
than to be looking at different screens and like looking at notes on different screens. It just doesn't work for me. So that way I can take a break from looking at a screen and still like do my work.
So when we go to like the dentist or the doctor's office, we see some magazines hanging around. Now you're hardly seeing any of that. Do you think that's a permanent thing, or is there an opportunity to get some sort of print into some of these specialized places, or is that just off limits and it's just digital 100% only?
I don't think it's going to go 100% digital. I think that there's still, you know, a market out there for people who enjoy flipping through a magazine. Like I still get magazines sent to my house. Like I still collect magazines just because they're kind of like a collectible.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's ever going to fully disappear just because there's so many catalogs, like all these archives, like where are they really going to go? But maybe we're going to get to a point where we're in the digital age, you know, where we go to certain restaurants and now you can pick the menu on a tablet.
Right.
Maybe that's what we're going to have in these like doctor's offices, waiting rooms
Okay.
with magazines on
So
tablets.
you might just have some tablets out there for all the
Yeah, and it's easy to
doctors,
sanitize
lawyers.
now as well than like a magazine page. You know, how many people have been flipping through a magazine? It's not really
Okay.
the most hygienic.
Well, you heard it here first. Some great ideas are coming, and we got royalties on it too.
Yes.
So basically now, you are a very cultured individual. You know, you have your magazine, Queen's Magazine. You're a magazine that celebrates the beauty of diversity as well. So tell us, you know, why is this important to you to have this type of magazine out there? It is something that stands out because it's based on not, you know, popular items per se that's, you know, out there, but it's got a good social and cultural connection. So tell us about that and tell us why that was important for you to bring that forward in this magazine.
I think just growing up, I always wanted to see myself represented a lot more in media. So a lot of what I do and a lot of the work that I do, even on the show, the Chat Up Show, it comes from a place of like 10-year-old me. What would I want to see out in the world? And so a lot of, you know, the diversity and all of that is because I grew up with a very diverse background. And so that's like natural to me. And I'm like, this is how I grew up. And so this is how a lot of people have grown up. So like, why can't we just embrace all of this beauty and like the differences that we all share? So it's kind of just who I am, I think. So it was easy for me to go that route, to be like, hey, let's celebrate this. Like, this is what I want to share. This is part of my voice. And
But you also actionized it too. So where does that part come from, where you just had to sort of bring it out there? Is it just a go-getter style that you just have?
Well, I mean, the magazine itself was a final project for my degree. So
I see.
there was that. There was the I have to get a degree aspect of it. But to keep it going after graduating was just mostly the feedback that I've received. Because now I know that I'm not just doing it for me. Like, I'm doing it for other women out there who see the magazine and are like, yes, like, I feel seen, I feel heard, I feel represented. I feel like my voice is being shared on a platform that, you know, generally I don't think we would normally see the kind of stories that we were telling at Queen. So there's that too. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I find it very impressive that someone, you know, as young as you are, as versed as you are, and as caring as you are about the community and how, you know, people that look like yourself is viewed is very important. So I congratulate you for that. Just want to remind our viewers that we are here tonight with the CEO of Queen's Magazine, Elizabeth Aloidi. We'll be right back after these messages with more from her. Thank you.
Yeah, this is Dr. Rod, the boss of all bosses, and if you don't know, then it's your losses. You're watching GBKM.TV. Yeah, this is Dr. Rod, the boss of all bosses, and if you don't know, then it's your loss.
GBKM TV, the station with a vision. GBKM TV, the station with a difference now. Slim Flex said so.
Welcome back to the Smart Investing Show with Alton Brooks. We can be seen on the GBKM network every Monday night from 9 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. Also, feel free to download the app on the iOS or Android, GBKM. Just look for that. All right, you can also find us on FM, www.gbkm.fm, and live on TV, www.gbkm.tv. This evening, we're talking to a young entrepreneur. We're talking about the transformation from online, or I should say to online, from other forms of businesses, including print and magazines, which are now mostly online, and she decided to start a business doing that. And I wanted to find out what her thoughts and ideas were when it came to that. So let me dig a little further with you here, Miss Eloidy. Early on, because I'm always intrigued when young people start a business, what is it that really drives them? So tell me a little bit more about your early years and some of the things that you may have done that pointed to the fact that you wanted to be an entrepreneur, that you wanted to be someone who controlled their own destiny, do her own thing. Like, when did you figure that out?
I don't think I have. I still don't see myself as an entrepreneur.
Really? After
Yeah.
4 years of
I
running your
know.
magazine?
I know. It sounds really weird, but I just don't. I don't know. I just don't see myself in that light, I guess. So when people, like, I've been asked before, like, where did the entrepreneurial spirit come from? And I'm like, I don't think I have one. I think I'm just really independent.
It just happens naturally?
Yeah.
Is that it?
I think, like, I'm just really independent, and I know what it is that I want to put out in the world, and I wasn't finding that in other jobs available.
Right.
So I'm the type of person that would rather create their own space than to try and go looking for somewhere that I have to then change myself to fit a mold.
The thing is, though, that kind of thing normally scares the crap out of people.
Yeah.
But it didn't scare you, so that's where I was trying to get there with trying to figure out why it doesn't scare you, because I know a lot of people right now would love to start a business, but they're just so afraid.
Oh, I'm scared all the time.
But you still went ahead, though.
I mean, at the end of the day, YOLO. Like, you only live once. Honestly, though, you only live once. Like, no one else is doing this. If I don't do it, who will? And if I don't do it, no one's gonna do it like me. It's scary. I'm not gonna sit here and say like, oh yeah, it's like beautiful, it's amazing, being an entrepreneur is the best thing in the world. It's hard work. You have to motivate yourself. You are in charge of, you know, maybe not just your finances, like the finances, like other people's financial situations. So that's a lot on your shoulders as like the leader in this leadership position. It's your thing. So like, it's your baby, it's your child, it's your brain power, it's your brainchild, it's all of these things. So it's very personal to you. It's hard. It's hard.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
Now, as well too, being someone who is a young person, tell me about the psychology of the family and how supports or lack of or so on can affect how you do in your own type of business like this.
Oh, so important. I'm very fortunate that I've had family that supported me through every venture that I've ever pursued. From when I wanted to be an actress, I wanted to be a teacher, I wanted to do everything, and they were like, yeah, go ahead, do it. So I would say that because I have that support, it makes such a difference. Like now, even though sometimes I don't want to talk about my business with my family, because it's like, it's my business, I don't want to bring that into family time.
Right.
I know that if anything, I can go to my mom or my dad or my brother for advice or like ideas, or I can brainstorm with them because they're there to support me.
Right.
And I think having that kind of support really does make a difference, because if you are telling yourself, I can't do it, and there everyone else around you saying, yeah, you can't do it, you're probably not going to do it.
Right.
But if you're having that time where you're kind of like, you're not, maybe you're doubting yourself a little bit, you're feeling a little more insecure about your entrepreneurial journey, but you have this great support system behind you saying like, yo, it's hard, but like, keep going, keep pushing, more times than not, you're going to succeed. So I think that support, especially with your family, like that's like the first place you often look to.
It can make or break you.
Yeah. And I think that not a lot of people take in, because people say like, oh, if people don't want to support you, who cares?
Right.
It does make a difference, because
Yeah.
of the people that like you look to the support, like who were ideally like your family's supposed to be there to uplift you and
To
keep you
inspire
going.
you, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they're not doing that. It's going to be hard for you to believe that a stranger is going to support you
So
wholeheartedly.
true. So true.
So
Well, I'm really glad that you got that type of support, because again, it makes a world of difference.
yeah.
And it probably shows when it comes to the product that you put out, because you have that sound structure behind you and you have all the tools to put out a great product. But speaking of the great product, we have advertisers who really pay the bills, whether you're print or whether you're online when it comes to magazines. When you print, they can actually see it, they can know how many people's reading it, you know, they can invest a certain amount of dollars. Tell us about how the online version sort of works when it comes to advertisers, what they're looking for, and how do they know, or how can they tell that they're being rewarded just as how they would be in print the old way?
Excuse me. I mean, now like we have the influencer market, so that's the model that a lot of people are following when it comes to advertising. It's just like branding. You know, you're promoting a certain brand because you yourself are a brand.
Right.
Now, you know, with online, we can check out our analytics. It's really easy to pull it up and be like, okay, this is how many people engaged with our content. This is how many people viewed it. And so that's what a lot of advertisers are now like looking towards to, I guess, quantify and even qualify like where they're spending their money and who they're giving their money to in terms of like advertising. I think now the types of ads we're seeing are changing. Like there was a recent, it was kind of like a fake front cover for USA Today that was advertising a new Netflix show. I think it's called Sweet Tooth.
Okay.
So the show's premise is like new babies being born because it's like an apocalypse or something. And like these babies are like hybrid animals and humans. So on the front cover of USA Today, it's like a picture of like this hybrid baby deer child.
Okay.
And people are thinking like, this is real? Like, is this real news? Like with a real headline. But no, it's an ad. And it says advertisement at the top for a Netflix show. And so it's kind of funny how it's like, wow,
and
we're
it can
seeing
be
like,
misconstrued as fake news. But
it could be if you know, if you didn't know that it was like this was
an
what
ad.
it was and you didn't actually read through it. Yeah, and that's what a lot of people came up with. They're like, what is this? This is so strange. But it's been done before. This isn't new, but it's now with a streaming platform like Netflix as opposed to an ad for a movie in the cinema.
Right.
So I don't know necessarily if like the style of advertising is changing so much for print, just the type of advertisement. So it's like they will still link back to something digital at the end of the day, even though we're seeing it on print, was what I was trying to get to.
Yeah, for sure. And are you finding those costs, these new digital costs, in line to what it was similar to print? Or do you find them excessive? Better price, like better value for the money when it comes to these types of digital tools?
Well, I've never worked like in print for that long, to be fair.
Right.
Most of my experiences were digital, and most of my experiences like from me having to foot the bill. So it's kind of different.
But on the digital side, do you find that the cost of doing business digitally is reasonable, or do you find it excessive?
I think it's different costs. I mean, obviously, like the overhead when you're doing it like in print is different because it's like printing costs, you know, photography, all of that, ink, stuff like that. But for digital, it's like different kind of costs. So it's like paying for the software, paying for ads as well that we can use on social media platforms. It may be a little more cost effective. That's why we're seeing a lot more people able to start their businesses online these days because, you know, now we have more tools and technology out there that allows for it to be easier.
Right.
Maybe cheaper, but in the long run, if you want to build a long-lasting business, it's going to take a lot of money. So for now, maybe it's cost effective, but I mean, ask me in like 5 years.
I certainly will. But speaking of cost effectiveness and online and the branding, Queen's Magazine, like I just love the name Queen's Magazine because it just makes you think of someone that's beautiful and someone that's black, because you know you got black queens. So how did you come up with that name, and what was the thought process in calling your magazine Queen's Magazine?
It just kind of came to me. I was at lunch with a friend, and I was just kind of brainstorming. I was like, what can really sum up what we want to say with this magazine? And I was like, well, you know, now there's like the whole Black Queens movement. Like we're all queens, we're all royal, we're all beautiful within our own right. And I was like, okay, how about we adopt that, but then kind of make it our own by changing the U to a W.
Right.
So it's more inclusive. Like we are all queens.
Okay. Oh, that's a nice twist
See
to
where
it.
I was going with that? Yeah. So that's kind of where it started from. But I think that when you hear queens, exactly, it's like something positive.
Yeah.
It's empowering. it uplifts you. You're like, yeah, I'm a queen too. Like yeah, I'm one of them.
Well, I like that little twist you put in there with that W-E, which brings in everybody. We
Yeah.
are all queens as far as if you identify as a black woman,
Or if you identify as a queen.
or if you
Period.
identify as a queen, period.
If you think that you are a queen, then Queens is for you.
That's right. That's right. All inclusive all the
Yes,
time.
Yes.
All right. So, for those that are watching, and not necessarily just for a magazine or online business, but for any sort of online business, just give us a few tidbits on some pros and some cons of running an online business. For those who are watching, I'm sure everyone's getting inspired. Tomorrow they're going to register their businesses. They're going to bring their ideas to
Yes.
light. But just give a couple of ideas of what are some pitfalls, what are some good or bad things that can happen with an online business.
So I let's start with the pros, just to start on the positive. Or let's do cons first. Bad news first, I guess.
Sure.
I think one of the cons is you're probably gonna have to explain yourself and prove to people over time that your business is real. Because I think that there's still the misconception, is what I'm gonna call it, that online work isn't real work. Like it's
Right.
not a real career if your job is online. Like that's let's not. But you're gonna have to advocate for yourself. So that's
Right.
kind of a con. Another one is that it can get a little lonely. Even though there are a lot more entrepreneurs out there these days, we're still stuck in the I have to do it myself kind of phase sometimes.
Right.
So it can get a little lonely. If you do have like a community of support that you can like reach out to, mentors are great tools and resources to have. Just anyone that you can kind of talk to, because it can really mess with your mental
Right.
health. Like when you're the only one working for yourself, you're trying to build something for yourself. It's like the highs and the lows of it all as well can
Right.
really can really ruffle your feathers, to put it simply. How many cons was that? That's like 2, 3.
Yeah, but that's fine. That's
okay.
fine.
We're a couple cons. The pros, I think, is just like the independence of it all. It's really empowering to say like I own my own business. I work for myself. And then to see the growth as well. You're there from the beginning. You get to see how far you go. That is
Right.
beautiful. Enjoy the journey. The journey is great. I'm saying that because I'm on the journey. So.
Well, it must be a terrific journey.
Yeah,
I'm sure it'll
so take it
continue
from
to
me.
be. Now, you speak of, having support and, even folks that look like you and things like that. Have you seen or are you seeing an adequate amount of representation of people of color for online businesses in general, just in general and how you go about people you see in the business space? Are you seeing a sufficient amount of representation business-wise as you would in the normal non-online space?
I think now, yes, because people can, advertise themselves. With social media, you can you can sell yourself
Yeah.
essentially. So it's easier to know more about who's doing what in terms of small business owners. I think there's always room for more representation. I don't think there'll ever be enough, but I'd say that it's definitely growing and increasing. We're seeing a lot more representation, and that's what Queens is there for as well, to show you that there's so many more people out there who are entrepreneurs, who look like me, who look like you too, Alton,
Oh, wow, okay.
who are doing it for the culture.
That's right.
So yeah, it's definitely out there.
Okay. Well, one final question before we go, and that is I'm always looking forward to the future. Tell us, 5 years from now, where do you see Queens Magazine, and where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? Paint that picture for us.
In 5 years, I would hope that Queens will somewhat be more of a household name. More people would recognize it, and more people would feel empowered.
That is terrific.
Yeah.
And I have no doubt that you will successfully navigate that. You're a hardworking person. You've been at it ever since. You don't even know when you found out that this was in you to do it, but you just do it. And sometimes, for our viewers watching, you just have to just get out there and just do it and not talk about it. We'd like to thank the CEO of Queens Magazine tonight, Elizabeth Oloidi, for joining us. For anyone who's young, who's looking to start something, don't be afraid. Just go out there and go for it. Thank you for joining us tonight for our show. We'll be back next Monday evening at 9 p.m. See you then. Have a great week.
Yeah, this is Dr. Rod, the boss of all bosses, and if you don't know, then it's your losses. You're watching GBKM.TV. Yeah, this is Dr. Rod, the boss of all bosses, and if you don't know,
GBKM TV, the station with a vision. GBKM TV, the station with